Big Al's Rant with Cayden McFarland, powered by Jack Cassee Ford.
And hello, my friends. Welcome to halftime of Eagles and Giants. And this is our next to last rant for the football season.
How about that?
So we're getting down to the nitty gritty here.
Have enjoyed it, as always.
Now, we were compiling our top 10 stories of the year.
Right.
And we had Westbrook and Durant on top. But the latest situation with Bob Stoops and Mixon and the tape being released all of a sudden became the top story. So yesterday we had the reaction from Bob Stoops. We waited for this kind of response for a long time, 2.5 years.
What did you make of it? I haven't talked to you about it since.
I'm still a little confused, but at least we came to a semi-conclusion to what Bob Stoops was thinking when they suspended him for 1 year. I'm still a little confused as to why he felt that it's a different atmosphere now, 2.5 years later, as opposed to seeing the video back in July of 2014.
The headline coming out of this was Bob saying, if it happened today, I think I would have kicked him off the team. And, 2.5 years ago, it was just the 1 year suspension. And what I find so interesting about that, even though he doesn't say these words exactly, here's my translation of what that means. I'm not here to make a stand for right or wrong. I'm here to make the best decision for this program. And he's, to me, admitting that because the act itself was wrong 2.5 years ago, just as wrong as it is now. But he's saying that society has changed. And for the OU football program politically, the best move now would be to just kick him off the team, whereas 2.5 years ago, he thought it was suspend him for just a year. So he's saying, look, I'm stepping back in terms of placing judgment with regard to right and wrong. I'm just the guy who makes the best decision for this program. I mean, isn't that what you take away? Even though he didn't say it in those words, that's basically what he's saying.
And I think, and because he is a coach's son, I think he's had this coaching leadership role for so long, or has seen the reactions to other situations in this role. And coaches have a tendency to think that they're the, as Garen Emick put it, the Father Flanagans of the world. And we saw Tom Osborne do it with Phillips. And we've seen other situations where the coach feels that they are the rehab artists, so to speak, for lack of a better term. And I think Bob Stoops got caught in that. Here's an 18-year-old kid that made a mistake. Let me see if I can make his life better. Let me see if I can get him through these hard times and make a man out of him.
And it's hard for me to have a big problem with that, to be honest, because he's right. Society has changed. And the fact that there's video out there is what is. If there was no video, it's obvious now that the outrage wouldn't be the same as when people see the video. And so I love second chances. I absolutely do. And I can sympathize when it comes to that. Can't you sympathize with him when it comes to that? Even though we said at the start, 2.5 years ago, we said this is the wrong decision, you can sympathize. And for the most part, he's been right. I know that Mixon hasn't exactly kept his nose clean. But for the most part, that's been the case. I wish that he had been public about this, could have rehabbed his image much more than he has, but he has stayed out of trouble for the most part.
That's the one thing I have a problem. Everybody's worried about who's saving image here and who's saving face. Leaders lead. And you could look at it both ways. You can be, but in this instance, it seems like Bob Stoops was willing to compromise the situation and not be a leader, but he was a follower in what had transpired in past situations instead of being a leader and taking the forefront in this. And, it was brought up on the radio show today with us, is why wasn't David Boren at this same press conference?
Couldn't agree more.
He was the man who made the right. And I thought in this instance, Bob Stoops was in a catch-22. And he did the best he could. He wasn't... He didn't take an arrogant stance. He took a humble stance, it appeared to me. But I kept waiting for, as he started, and he said, if this had happened now instead of 2.5 years ago, I kept waiting for so we've decided that Joe Mixon is no longer a member of this football team. I was expecting that to come out of his mouth after about a minute
Hard to
him
do that
explaining.
when everybody knows they saw the video 2.5 years ago. And
Right. Obviously, that's going to be the ultimate in hypocrisy. If
Yeah.
there's no right decision here
Yeah.
because they let it fester for so long.
Sure.
If they had attacked it from the very beginning, we could have righted a wrong a lot better than what has transpired up to this point.
It's hard to put it on Stoops. Everything you just said, I think, is exactly right. Because, look, his job is to win football games. It's the guys above him, Joe Castiglione and David Boren, who really had a great opportunity to make a stand for what's right. Because I understand why the legal system is so strange here. It's difficult to apply laws when, here's the fact of the matter. When you're 6'2", 230 pounds, and strong and athletic like Joe Mixon, you have a greater responsibility than a man who is, let's say, much smaller than that, right? You have to keep your temper in check in a way that other people don't because of the damage you can inflict. So it's not right. It's not right for a smaller man to do the same sort of thing to her. But I think that to whom much is given, much is expected. The law, you can't write laws that way. But Stoops and Boren and Castiglione could have stood up for that and said, look, in this society, men have to treat women a certain way. And if you're a football player, if you're somebody this big and strong, you have to go even beyond that. You know what I mean? And because they deal with football players, because that's his life as coaching guys like that, I think it's important for him to take that kind of stand. He had an opportunity and punted.
I think another interesting point here is when Bob Stoops said we would have given him his release if he wanted to go elsewhere.
Yeah. That was big.
It tells me also that he may have been, for lack of a better way of putting it, shopped around.
Yeah.
And he was so radioactive
Right.
that no other school wanted to take a chance on him.
I was surprised to hear that, and I'm also surprised to hear now some reports, I'm not sure I believe them, that some people think he won't even be drafted in the NFL draft if he were to come out this year. I don't believe that just yet because I think he is a first-round talent, and we're seeing Tyreek Hill, who had obviously a similar incident in his past, even though there's no video of it, flourishing as a rookie in the NFL. I think somebody takes a chance on him, but I've been surprised by that report for sure.
Actually, I'm not. I don't think he will be drafted.
Is that right? So you think a Ray Rice thing is in the mix?
I think the NFL has come down now, and it's kind of like what Bob Stoops was talking about 2.5 years ago. He would have been drafted. But now the situation is different. We have different philosophies now on how to handle these kind of things. And Bob Stoops said this in the right way. It's a good thing that we're handling it the way we are right now. But I do think, because this story, if you think it's going to be over at the end of the Sugar Bowl, you're mistaken.
Right.
Because it's going to be mentioned at the Combine if Mixon comes out. It's going to be mentioned in all the hype leading up to the NFL draft.
Sure.
It's going to be talked about when it's time. Now, Mixon may be high on the charts as running backs are concerned, but everybody's going to be watching, is Mixon going to be taken or not? And that's going to be a storyline through the 2 or 3 days of the draft. Yeah. So this story, unfortunately, is not going to go away. And it's a stain on OU and the situation.
Right.
And just when we started working our way out of the Sports Illustrated jumpsuit cover, now this stuff comes up again. And from a national standpoint, no, there's a lot of Oklahomans that could care less what they think about OU across the nation. You know, it's like us against the world mentality. But I also think that it's still not a good. It's not a good advertising. It's not a good market. It's certainly not a good marketing tool.
This was going to be part of his legacy.
Right.
I mean, he talked about that yesterday, which he was humble and open for the most part. I mean, that went as well as it could have gone.
Considering the circumstances, I thought he handled it. Yeah. There were a few brief stutters.
Yeah.
But that's
not
strange.
You may be right about Mixon's future. Personally, I think that the fact that he was 18 years old makes it quite a bit different from the Ray Rice situation, and the fact that he's got so much good football in front of him versus Ray Rice. I really think somebody takes a chance on him. But you could be right. I mean, it could be now that this is just the kind of crime you can't commit, at least on video.
In his combine interviews with the NFL teams, he's going to have to really sell them, in my opinion, on his whether or not he's been rehabbed or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
He's really going to have to sell himself in that regard.
Agreed. All right, Tulsa football had quite the turnaround, did they not? 2 years ago, a 10-loss team, now a 10-win team. They won the Miami Beach Bowl by about 100 points, it felt like, against Central Michigan.
It could have been 100.
It could have been 100 if they had wanted it to be.
Hey, when you realize on the sideline that the only player who hasn't played is the punter.
How about that?
At the end of the game, and you put him in there to take a knee.
A snap, yeah. And he's been a great punter all year long.
So what does that tell you? How dominating?
That you've had a pretty good game. The defense was great as well. Look, Montgomery's losing a lot of guys off this team. But we now, I think, have seen enough from him that we just believe he's going to find a quarterback to run this system. He's going to find running backs and receivers to replace Kevin Lucas, Josh Atkinson, James Flanders. And they'll keep rolling. They got a good thing going right now at 11th at Harvard. And the fact that he's coming back for at least one more year is a beautiful thing.
Don't expect these kind of records to be set anytime
think.
soon.
Yeah.
However, the key to this is that, yes, the Lucases of the world are going to be missed. The Evans of the world going to be missed. No question. Flanders going to be missed.
Yeah.
But Brewer's coming back. They've got some underclassmen pass catchers.
Yeah.
They have an offensive line that every single one of those hogs come back.
Absolutely.
So that is big time.
Sure.
And you could tell as the season progressed, the defense got faster. There's more speed on defense.
They look good.
And if you think Montgomery's just an offensive-minded guy, no, he made sure that he had a defense too.
And one of the things nobody talks about that I think they've done really, really well there is strength and conditioning. Those guys looked a whole lot more athletic and stronger than Central Michigan did. I was really impressed. September the 2nd, 2017, TU at OSU. I know OSU's probably bringing back Mason Rudolph and James Washington. Probably will just have too much talent for TU.
Is there any truth?
But Philip Montgomery ain't going to be scared.
Well, did you hear the rumor that Montgomery's maybe calling the Rudolph and Washington contingent, say, hey, you need to go pro.
You guys, you look like NFL quarterbacks and receivers.
Hey, I'm sure when we interview him, I thought he was going to go to the NFL. Oh, geez, he's an NFL kind of quarterback.
Dancing video? Talk to me, producer. Did we put that in, Montgomery?
Yes,
We'll go out with this right here. This is how we say goodnight and enjoy the second half of the ball game. This guy can get down. This is not like Gundy level dancing. This is way above.
I put his dance up to our panel of experts. Brett gave him a 10. I think Brian gave him a 10.
He looks to me like a guy. He grew up in West Texas. He looks like a guy who's got some country line dancing experience. He can move a little.
But he doesn't have the cowboy boots. I don't know.
I love this guy. What a year it was. All right, I guess that's it.
What about the hat going backward?
Tony Romo, Philip Montgomery, and me. I still rock the backwards hat. We're going to bring it back, baby. And a couple guys in the locker room.
All right, let's send it back to our ball game tonight. The Eagles and Giants from Philadelphia.
Big Al's Rant with Cayden McFarland, powered by Jack Cassey Ford.